We are going to talk about Jerry Gidel's estimates for the USDA Wednesday report and also the U.S. corn exports right here on Connected Farmer, your channel to keep you up to date with the latest trends in agriculture and livestock. So, Jerry, let's first talk about the markets this week. We had some bounces over there.
Yes, yeah. Well, we finally got people starting to realize that the USDA's numbers from last Thursday were really just trend line type of numbers. Really, were not uh, based upon any farmer surveys from what they really plant, won't plant, and to some extent, unfortunately, the U.S. Exchanges did not keep up with their updated commitment of traders, which in essence would have potentially maybe shown that we had a few overstayed funds in this market and that. And once the USDA's numbers for next year came through with a 1.8 number on carryover sales for corn, then beans was up some, but 290, but really not, a bullish number, and I'm not sure anybody should expect them to be bullish, even with maybe not as much optimism that the USDA has about their yields and their on corn and soybeans. We're going to have potential for some kind of increase, but boy, tumble all the way through early this week from there. But we have bounced back pretty dramatically.
Yes, and what the market has been talking about is a possible pickup on the U.S. corn export in the next couple of weeks because of lack of supply for other places around the world. But in the meantime, for the midterm, I think corn exports will jump from Brazil, right?
Well, the on a longer term basis, there's lots of optimism in South America that their crop is in Brazil, particularly that their crop is going to. Uh, Last year they were talking 125, 128, and then it got beat up by some poor weather in the southern part of the country, and even some issues up in Mato Grosso and that. But now, definitely the rains have been very good up in the Mato Grosso area. To some extent, they've been actually too good for the beans. And we've got a little bit of an issue that might pop back up again on some of this late planted double crop corn or safrinha corn up there that could have a big impact or could have an impact on their output. But right now, we're kind of in that transition from the exports we had in South America through the fall and that, and also right now we've also maybe hit a dead spot here in what could happen in the Black Sea. That issue has definitely boiled up again here as we go into the negotiations here ahead of the March 19th deadline out there. And things are quite a ways apart on some of these things. They're both talking past each other, as always. That happens in these negotiations on trade.
Now, what are your estimates? Everybody wants to hear or anticipate your estimates for the March report coming out of Washington.
Well, the scenario on the estimates there kind of go together a little bit here. I'm, I guess, considering some of the dryness we've heard in Rio Grande, some erraticness in what's gone on in even the first crop corn in Paraná, and that, and of course, what's happened in Argentina right now, at least the corn crops in Argentina is anticipated to go down from 47. I'm looking for 43, 42, and the trade's looking at 43 million metric tons. And then right now, it's kind of a mixed bag here. The USDA was 125 million last month. I've the twist of it is I've heard numbers and popped up, and you've kind of popped up along too, seeing that we've had some 127s, 128s, and we've also had some 120, 121. I kind of feel like the USDA is going to be conservative, maybe go down a couple million. You put that together there, and then uh, there's still also a lot of expectations here that the corn number in Argentina could still slip now, because the corn number situation uh, is the second crop corn, which they planted more of it this year. Uh, because of the dryness in the fall, they waited for a higher proportion of it after the wheat crop. That last year, that kind of held together here and actually popped up a little bit better than expected. I'm not sure where we're going to be on that. I kind of feel like that it's in big trouble. There's lots of people talking about it this week. Minimal kind of moisture, heat building, same thing going for next week, and that the rumor has it that Buenos Aires could be knocking down both their corn and beans, and actually the bean number is all the way down, rumored to be at 30 million metric tons, down from I kind of feel like a 35 million number, and that's going to be down from the USDA's 41 million number, and so uh, there's lots of expectations for Argentina to have some really difficult crops this year. To some extent, some of these numbers are significantly below some of the worst case scenarios we've had in the past. So it's a little bit cautionary here. You don't want to get totally, that's part of the reason I think a lot of people are in this 35 to 37 million number. I think the trade estimate was around 36 average there for this month. But because soybeans have an amazing ability to hang tough in pretty poor conditions waiting for rain. But right now, we've had pretty limited kind of rains. Uh, Even from earlier this week, earlier this last weekend, and now this weekend and most of next, and that's not good. Eventually, you got to get some rain out there to access and get a crop continuing at this point. So South America is going to be quite important, and its influence on the U.S. supply demand numbers could be an interesting factor right now.
Now, do you think that soybeans could reach new price levels?
Can soybeans make new highs? Is that what you just said?
Yes.
Um, that's a really difficult scenario. We've really nicked up the technical outlooks on these things, technical action, and that we had a 70-cent kind of break here on things. The $16 mark that's kind of held things back on various contracts, and that it's really going to depend on what really starts to happen in really the southern parts of Brazil's harvest and what happens in Argentina, and that we're probably still at least another month away on Argentina's actual harvest out there, and that would be even in its own way be stretched out. It might not be until we get into mid-April out there, but it's highly important on things if that's going to happen. The one thing that's also eating at this market and got everybody generally on edge here is that we've had this La Nina going on for 3+ years, or at least 2.5 to 3 in that, and the updates from the meteorology people are talking about this sea surface temperatures creeping up to at least not a full blown -1 on La Nina to maybe 5.5, a -0.5, I should say, with lots of talk that actually at one time here over the last couple of weeks we've talked about it was going to be here by May. I still a little bit cautious about that, but it is out there. It's been there, and that would be a big difference. That would make a difference in what could happen in Argentina, and it could help make a difference because last year, as I mentioned, the corn situation in Brazil was definitely nicked up at the last minute out there, and so it took some of the edge off of us. But right now, at least, lots of numbers flying around there in South America. what's the influence on the U.S.? That's also going to be important. There's even this week's averages from were actually slightly lower than I thought we'd hear
All
on the
right,
U.S.
I think we're wrapping up. Anything else to add, Mr. Jerry?
Well, I think the one thing we need to make sure that everybody got an idea on is what the trade's looking for these various U.S. carryover stocks. The wheat side of things, I kind of feel like minimal changes there, kind of be unchanged on the U.S. stocks. 568, you might edge up 5 million on something or other, some adjustment within imports or exports or something like that. The changes on soybeans are definitely going to be watched. Interestingly enough, up until oh, well, even earlier last week when we actually started dropping off on some of our export number expectations, because we are going to see a heavy competition from Brazil, and we won't have much coming out of Argentina, but we'll have out of Brazil. Even if it's not going to be 153 or 155, it's still going to be 150 or so on the carry on a production down there, and so they're going to be competitive out there in the soybean world. But I think the one thing that is we've really got a half a year of of exports ahead of us here, and we only need about 200 million worth of sales and shipments. Or, excuse me, 200 million of sales and man, I think about 350 or something like that on exports to shipments, and that to get the USDA, I kind of feel like we should see that bounce back a little bit, and we'll see a little lower number. I'm looking for 210. I think the trade average guess is 220 versus last month's 225. From there, actually, I think crush is going to be a little stronger than the USDA's current number, but after the number we got this month for January, but the USDA is not going to take it down last month and increase it this month. They'll hold their water to see what the soybean stocks are and other things here a month from now when we get those data together. And interestingly enough, don't forget March 31st, we're going to have a U.S. planning number better than the numbers we just got from the USDA. Also, the big, of course, number, of course, everybody's kind of keeping an eye on here is corn. We've had quite a struggle here on our exports in the U.S. I think you're exactly right. We're going to see pigs pick up pretty dramatically because there isn't much competition here between now and July in the world, and we are the source, particularly with Ukraine being constrained as it is, and so I kind of feel like that number could destabilize and even turn back around. But I'm not so sure that with the numbers we've got on our current trend here at this point, and we're significantly behind our seasonals on things that the USDA won't see some type of decrease in its U.S. exports this month. They really can't touch feed until they see the stocks number, and on the ethanol number that everybody was getting a little wheezy after December here with the poor export, or excuse me, poor processing there. We had the cold weather. It's bounced back some. It's going to be a little interesting. I kind of feel like this year's driving season is going to be very strong. So I think things will come back through. I think the USDA is also going to sit back and wait on that one. So in reality, I'm kind of looking for about a 50, maybe a 75 million increase in the carryover stock because of exports in the U.S. being shaved because of this significant pattern behind us. I'm not sure that will be the final scenario, but unfortunately, right now, you stare at those exports situations in the short term, and we need to find some action. And I hope like we actually get some fruition here. There's lots of rumors about the Chinese coming into these markets the last few days and buying some corn, and they haven't really been a participant in this year's corn crop. They've in the U.S. they bought some stuff from Brazil. They're playing coy. They can't wait all the way to July to buy there's some corn they need for the southern feeding operations in China. And so I think you will see some increased Chinese purchases here, but in the short term, they're not here today. So it's tough to say when they're going to show up, but I got to believe that they're going to be around the corner here shortly. So hopefully get some stability back in these markets after a very vicious break here after the USDA's 2023-24 projections, because they are only projections. They're really not reality. But the one thing we got coming in here is a changing attitude about what our yield potential might be for the North America, with the potential of the El Nino around the corner. We'll just see. Have to see how quickly it shows up. That's going to be a major factor in the 2023-24 U.S. prices.
All right, thank you very much, sir.
You bet. Have a good weekend, and we'll be battling next week.